This happens sometimes when you're in a patient room and you're talking to him and it gets really awkward because like you're dripping sweat and you're like, oh, pardon me, I just can't help myself.
Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make it home.
It's fall, y'all.
Yo, Dr. Allie, what's up? It's fall, y'all. I'm Dr. Jeremy Cross.
And I'm Dr. Allie Cross.
This is Footprints to Blueprints, and it
Yellow.
is fall.
How do you feel about that?
I love the fall season.
Me too.
Personally, it's football, chili. You just made some white corn chili the other night.
White chicken chili.
It was really, really good. So no, I fall's one of my favorite seasons. I love watching the leaves turn colors. You know, I grew up in San Diego where you didn't really see that
Anything.
much.
Except water.
Just water, yeah, and concrete buildings, but
Okay.
it's really, really nice. I mean, I feel like it's a time in the year where you kind of hunker down. Our children just started kindergarten, first grade, and that was emotionally really tough.
Well, I mean, on the first day of school, it's already like stressful, and we're on our way to work or school to drop them off on their first day, and we get this text message to say that a patient's here early complaining about something.
Yeah.
And so you start, like your stress starts rising, and then Lele starts crying because she's scared and nervous about being at school, which then just raises everything else even more. And then you had to leave me at school. I went to chapel with them. I had to text my dad to come get me.
It wasn't cool.
It was hard.
I mean, for me, the big thing in any situation, and this is why we've created balance in our practice and our lives, is because there is nothing in that moment that should have taken away from my daughter.
Yes.
And it infuriated me because I'm like, I don't mind. I love helping people, right? But I'm also a human. I'm a husband and a father. And at that moment, I was trying to be there for my daughter and support her in her first day of school. And granted, it's like someone could be like, well, the patient didn't know. And no, I think the problem is that we're not always accessible to you.
Well, what to me was that they came in early expecting to be maybe seen early
Right.
because they had a problem. Well, you can see me at your appointment time, and I shouldn't be getting messages prior to your appointment time saying that you're upset about it or whatever.
So it threw me off a
annoying.
little bit, and it was a moment where I had to reflect as a parent, as a dad, and be like, okay, I have to compartmentalize this, and that was very challenging because we drove one car to drop off the kids, thinking that we were going to go to work together, and I had to leave because I had to go put out this fire, and my daughter's crying, and it tore me apart a little bit. So I've been thinking about that throughout the week. The rest of the week for her went awesome, and our kids have really enjoyed starting school in that process. And I'm excited to help them understand how important it is to stay disciplined in your craft.
Mm-hmm.
I think that more than anything is what I'm excited to teach them. For me, the big thing is I'm going to try to do the best that I can as someone who's gone through the educational system and went to school until I was 34 years old to make sure that they're not beat up to believe that they can't do something,
Mm-hmm.
that they're not sufficient enough because they may not be at the level that someone else
Right.
is at, that they won't go on to do something great because they're not at the level that someone else is at, that they're not getting bullied or cyber bullied or whatever the F is going on, because these things are happening now in the world, right? Like, that is where, for me, my commitment is to them. And so,
But you can only protect them so much.
for sure, yeah,
Because you want to put this bubble around them,
Yeah.
but ultimately putting a bubble around them can also hurt them in ways. And we have to be careful about that. Like, you don't even let them walk downstairs. I mean, you don't,
That's not true.
yes, it is. You are so protective, and
Yeah.
I get it, but you also have to let them live a little bit, because you literally don't let them, like, I can't even think of an example, but like you don't like to let them do anything that could be potentially dangerous because you're so worried about them getting hurt. But like,
You're making my forehead glisten.
stop it.
Sorry, let me
My
reflect
way is that you give them a little bit, and if they get hurt, then they get hurt and they learn to not do it.
I also think this might be a little bit more challenging for me because I'm a father raising two daughters, I think that if I was a father raising 2 sons, the approach would be different. And I honestly feel
How?
that way. Because as a male, you're trying to teach your kid, like, it's more of a tough love thing. And for my daughters, I'm really trying to nurture. And that could be sometimes over nurturing. I totally get that. But I'm trying to show them what love looks like. And I'm not trying to, you keep looking at my forehead.
I'm not. I'm looking
You are.
at
Are you looking
you
at, are you
because-
looking at your,
No, because
Do you
I
need me to
don't
wipe one
know
more
if I
time?
agree with that. I don't know because
oh, so we're going to agree to disagree. Did you wait to get me on the podcast to agree to disagree with me?
we agree to disagree all the time. What
We
are you
do.
talking about?
That's true.
No, I feel like you have tough love on them. So I don't. I mean, you
I am
being,
tough with them too, yeah.
I mean, nurturing. I mean, I don't know how it would change if they were a boy, and why should it change? I guess is my question to you. Why should it change? I think that is going back to our childhood and maybe
Yeah.
the way that we were raised, and that you have to be more aggressive and physical with the boys.
I don't know if I like the word aggressive.
Well, I understand that you don't like that, but how else?
Can someone
you,
please give me a paper towel?
my God, take your sweater off. Don't do that. But you're sweaty. What is happening? Stop drinking the coffee. It's making you hotter. Your nose.
Jesus, what's going on? I'm having a hot flasher.
You are.
40 years old. Damn.
What is
This is what it feels
happening?
like. I don't know. I
It's
feel
like, you're blazing in the sun. You can't. You need a fan.
Oh my God, get a fan on. I do. Can I get a little fan? I don't know. I'm super hot.
Are you
I don't know.
okay?
I think I'm okay.
Are you gonna pass out?
gonna pass. I
Are
need
you
some
getting
water
all
here.
in it?
No, I'm gonna make it. This happens sometimes when you're in a patient room and you're talking to him and it gets really awkward because like you're dripping sweat and you're like, oh, pardon me, I just got myself. It just happens. Those rooms get hot.
Yeah, it happens to me when I can't get a toenail
You're in there
out or
getting
something.
putting in work, like clipping.
Oh my God. Anyway, back to the story. Why does it have to be different?
I don't think that it has to be different. I just think that
You want to raise tough girls, so why aren't you being tough on them like you would be tough on boys?
I am tough on them, but
They know you. They know you
feel-
love them.
I know that, but
You can't always protect them from getting hurt. Physically, mentally, emotionally,
with
you
that.
can't. And if you try to, you're going to put them in this bubble that you've tried to get me out of forever, and it's hard.
they will get hurt, girl or boy. I totally understand that. All I'm saying is that I'm in a stage right now of nurturing.
I was reading this thing about Tyrese, about how he got married and his wife took out, all of his money, 50% of his whole life savings. 50 Cent helped guide him out of it. He got into Power, that show that we used to watch all the time. Great show. But he was essentially like, you have to fall in love with not just your heart, you have to fall in love with your head and be smart about it. I mean, and I agree with that because when you get married, you do have to think about it. We don't have prenup. I mean, we don't have enough anything to have a prenup. I mean, and that's a part of the process.
You're gonna get about 50 cents, baby girl. Shout out to 50. That's what you're gonna know.
But I just thought it was, again, by getting hurt, right? So he was talking about how he was, really hurt in that situation. And you can try to protect anybody any way you can.
Getting
but
hurt is a part of the process and the journey, and you learn so much. I'm so glad you learned about the mic. You learned so much through that process, and I'm just trying to ease them into that, right or wrong. It's just because I remember those emotions as a child and like feeling that, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, probably being an overprotective dad, but that's okay. Let me live in that moment for a little bit, and then we'll keep going. But you touched on something because you were mentioning, Tyrese, but you also sent me something this morning about the co-founder of Netflix and how him and his wife every Tuesday would have a date night.
yeah,
And so no matter what, it was like
the big top guy ended his clinic or ended his day at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
There was nothing that was going to stop him from doing that. And that's kind of what we've done here. And anyway, you can finish your train of thought.
here for lunchtime, like our lunch dates.
No,
just-
that we end clinic early. Like our schedule is very,
yeah.
distinct, and the boundaries have been set. And Jesse, our friend from podiatry school.
Yo, shout out Jesse
Yeah.
Larson, man. Hey, we got your message. It was all
It made me
in
cry.
love, man. Yeah.
But he recently had to make a change too because he needs to be there for his daughter. And
Yeah.
that's not the norm, you know? I mean, I was at Rotary hearing about a story about a guy who was running Kmarts, and he was working 70 hours a week, and that was low. And if you didn't work the 70 hours, then you weren't really working, you know, and he was making no money. But that is what that generation did, right?
Yeah.
And so now they look at us and we're like picking our schedule and like living all this way. And so there is such a discrepancy between the generations for so many reasons. But a link around that is that I find it fascinating from a medical standpoint about the increase in Parkinson's, the increase in dementia, increase in a lot of these neurological conditions
Cancer.
for the boomers, right? And then you look at what's happening to Gen X, right? Gen X is in the middle one. What's in the middle? Anyway, in between us and boomers. But now we're having an increase of cancers. We're having, I think people are just more openly talking about neurological disorders. We have obviously mental health has been more of a conversation and more openly talked about recently, especially at post-COVID. But like the neurological disorders that are happening in professionals in 40s and 50s all the time. Patients have neurological issues all the time. And I was telling a patient, it's not the unhealthy patients. It's not the alcoholics. It's not the diabetic patients. It's healthy individuals who
Overstimulated.
are professionals. And so you really start looking at the workforce and say, guys, was it really worth it? Working 70 hours a week, was it really worth it? Because now you say the golden years are the better years and all of that. No, they're not. They're like
No,
poop.
health. Listen, health is wealth, and
Steve Jobs.
You don't really start fully, I think, understanding that until either something bad happens and you get a health condition, or a loved one gets a health condition and you start realizing like, man, what am I doing
Yeah,
all this for? You
right.
take a step back, and so I think more people are just now aware of the consequences of just being all gas, no brake,
Yeah, fight or flight.
you know? And
Too many
so
years.
it just is, it's what happens. But, you know, I think this season of our life and going into fall season, it is, you know, continuing to be about balance and trying to teach our kids like, okay, what does balance look like though? You know what I mean? Like I was calling my mom on the way to work today and I was like, man, because my mom was a single parent, shout out to single moms. And I'm like, you took us to school, you went to work, you picked us up from school, you helped us with our homework, you took us to practice, right? Like I'm doing half of that with you, right? And yeah, we're doing it together, but I'm like, I can only imagine the load on one individual, like what that does to a person to give up all of themselves
But
to give
then,
their child an
but then the
opportunity.
child later in life wants to say, you didn't do enough.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
And pointing the finger. And I was talking to Sophia about that. Shout out to my eyelashes. Ha! Anyway, we were talking about that today.
Your eyelashes do look good. She did a great job.
I know, thank you. We were talking about you can try your hardest and you think you're doing the best you can, but there's going to always be someone to point out a fault. And it's really hard as a parent because we truly try as hard as we can in that moment that we think this is the best we can do. And 20, 30 years from now, there's going to be new things that will make us feel less, I don't know. It's just, it's hard. A lot of pressure.
Parenting is the hardest thing I've ever done. You know, we're coaching our daughter's soccer team, and it was a long week at school. Our kids do great. We pick them up. We're like, okay, we got an hour before soccer. We run home, we change, we get everything ready. We hop in the car, and then we get to soccer practice. We're warming up. Everything's fine. Daughter has a meltdown.
The whole practice.
We're crying, and it's
The
just
whole practice.
so we're like, man, what is going on? Like, you need to focus up. Like, we've got to make sure we're paying attention to other kids. And so once again, a parent learning moment, right? Where you're like, okay, I can't really get into my kid here. I'm going to have to teach her how,
Well, and then we were like, you're going to get
situation.
picked up. And I said, no, you're not getting picked up. You're staying here.
Yeah.
You don't get out of the situation because you want to go home, because you want to be you want to leave. Like, no.
Absolutely.
And then I went on Amazon last night and bought like 5 books on coping mechanisms for kids.
Because here's the thing. You're trying to teach them how to cope with
I
those
have
emotions.
to learn too. I didn't learn to cope with shit until recently. I mean, I've been in therapy for 4 years, like straight. And then prior to that, I was on and off, like coping mechanisms, boundaries, like things that we were not taught.
Well, that's the thing. You're like, I'm expecting a 4-year-old to cope and shit like I'm barely coping. You know what I mean? Like, so you start to realize, dang, how challenging that is. And so, yes, you are trying to go into that with this mindset of, okay, I'm going to do the best that I can. I can read every book in the world, but every child is different. Like our oldest child, her reaction to things, like she would get angry. Our youngest, she gets sad, right? So it's a totally different coping mechanism. How do you cope with that? How do you help them get through those emotions, right? And not shunning them to make them feel like that's a bad thing, because as humans, we get angry, we get sad, we're happy, we experience joy. Like we have all these emotions, but there's certain emotions that for whatever reason are more shunned than others. I get it. You're not supposed to get mad and angry and throw stuff, but damn it, sometimes it's necessary to get mad. And there's a reason you should be pissed off. Or there's a reason to be
learning
sad.
how to calm yourself down.
Yes. So that you don't get to a point where you hold all that in.
Or destructive.
And you're either destructive out in the world or you're destroying your body because you're holding in all these emotions that are taking place. So, man, I mean, just taking it a day at a time and trying to become a better person for our kids, which I think Intel is helping us be better people for our patients, because we do feel like we have a life outside of just medicine. And I think that is what so many people are trying to encourage others to do. Like, it's great to help people. It's great to serve. But if you're serving at a capacity to where you're just so drained and you're not taking care of self and you're not looking after your family, then what are you doing all that for? You know what I mean? So, school, it'll be interesting as we go through the school season. And, I'm like, dang, we got homework now. I'm thinking about that every night. I'm like, it's PTSD. Like,
I get emails.
What?
I'm like, emails, what? What am I missing? I have to check the backpack all frantically in the mornings to see if I have stuff.
I forgot a water bottle. I had to run inside.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Your kid was like, I left my water bottle because there was no water in it. I'm like, that is not an excuse. Just tell me you need water.
There is no water. I haven't.
Yeah,
we have no water. We do have water.
It's because we have no refrigerator. We still have no kitchen. We're still camping out.
And our Brita is gotten thrown away. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But we're continuing to slowly move forward with projects at the house. The floor will be finished as far as the hardwood floor this week. And so that's great. And then, whoa.
I was thinking about the chickens, and then I was thinking about the pigs that any of them, the pigs were not getting.
Oh, she's still trying to get a pig, guys.
No, I'm not, because we have this connection that I could get 2 piglets, but I'm not going to do it because I have to get 2 and not just 1. And again, where am I going to put these things? We have space. No. Enough.
Not enough for pigs at all. No, the thing is, ever since we've been talking about getting more animals, like now even eating eggs for me has been such a challenge. Because I do think about the chicks. I didn't think that would affect me. It's weird for me now. I'm being 100% honest. And then so there was bacon the other day, and I was like, all I kept thinking about was Bullseye, this pig that you showed me, and this poor little guy got fried up and cut up and
stop it.
That's what I thought. It's ruining it for me. I'm like, this is why people don't eat meat. I get it, man. I'm done. I'm like, I can't. If you want me to be a vegetarian, just get a bunch of farm animals. I'll never have a piece of meat again. It's throwing me off. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, I did say if we got pigs, then we would have to stop eating bacon because it would be weird.
I'm trying to stop eating bacon, period. Anyways.
Why? Bacon is really good.
It is good, but pigs are very...
Bacon on the solo stove is the best.
Is excellent. That's crazy. But we'll see.
Yeah. We're not going to see. I'm not getting pigs.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're working on the treehouse. We're finishing that or working on that. That's good. That took...
treehouse. I don't know if
a moment.
People know what the treehouse is.
Oh, well, it's she shed, but it's called a treehouse. The treehouse, we moved it, so it's moving locations, but that one was that was a connection with my uncle. So it took me a while to get back reconnected. So
So what, I mean, so you have this tree house. Explain what it is, because it's not an actual house in a tree.
No. So when we first started it, it was just a shed, a she shed that grew because my husband's 6'3", and so we put a loft on there and all this stuff, and it's high ass ceilings and
13-foot ceilings.
with a loft that needed to be 8 feet high. Makes no sense, but it is. And so it's going to be our area where we go and do meditation and art and relax. And so when we first built it, it was higher up in the ground. So we called it a tree house, and then we tore it down because it wasn't sturdy enough. And then now we're going through the county and permitting. And anyway, so that's why it's called a tree house. But we're excited about it. I can't wait to show you guys pictures once it's all done. But
Yeah, it'll be cool. I mean, I think having spaces where you can go and disconnect completely from the house,
yeah,
right? Where
it's
you
like
can either,
it's the off-grid area.
you can either do like your meditation or your artwork, or, you know, obviously we do a lot of content creation. So being able to do stuff like that, just something that allows us to take a deep breath, breathe, and just use our creative process, I think will be cool. And, you know, we're just trying to show you guys the other side of what we do outside of medicine. It's really cool when patients walk into our office and they're like, this doesn't look anything like a medical office. And we're like, that's exactly what we want. Like, we want you to have an experience that's unlike anything else. And so it'll be really fun as we continue through this process. You guys get to see our aesthetic and the things that we enjoy doing. I'm working on these 2 paintings with my mom. My mom is an artist, so I grew up with my mom painting, and she'd go to an art school and I'd go down to art class with her. I feel like that's where I got a lot of my creative juices from. And we are working on these 2 paintings, mouth juices. We're working on these two paintings, and we're
Juices is a weird, gross word.
to me, it's kind of like panties. I feel like it's just,
Yeah, we have to say moist all the time because of moist is a description of a wound,
yeah, that's moist.
which is gross.
But anyways, so you'll get to see some of my mom's art, which is dope. And these 2 paintings that we created, it's the title of these 2 paintings is called Fairy Wishes. And so
Every time we can see the ferry, like the boat ferry, going by our house all the time. And so everyone in the house, has fairy wishes every single time.
yeah, it's pretty cool. But
And now our niece does it. It's cute.
it's super cute. But we have all these magical little fairy, like gnome houses around the property because we believe in magic, man. Like, magic is real, you know? And so we love, talking about the fairies with our kids and just using our imaginations. And so I'm excited to show you these paintings because they're really special to me. And my mom drew these 2 mermaids because I love mermaids too. I feel like mermaids are real, just like I believe in Bigfoot. But she drew these 2 mermaids on this picture particularly, and I'll show you guys, of a picture from when me and my brother were little boys. And I'm a Pisces, born in March. We love water.
We both were Pisces.
Both were Pisces, and we're hugging each other. And it's crazy because we just went on vacation to this place called Sun River, Oregon, where we went to go ride our bikes, and we took our kids to a museum, and we were looking at the constellations. They had like this thing where you could see the constellations, and it showed you like the Big Dipper, and so it was
It
really
was called
cool.
the High Desert Museum.
It was
and it
awesome.
was amazing.
It
I
was really
highly
cool.
recommend it if you're in near Bend, Oregon.
But remember, it had
Pisces, the fish.
2 Pisces, and so when I came home and saw that, it made me pretty emotional because, I miss my brother, obviously just with him not being around and having to deal with that. And so, there's an emotional tie and a cathartic process that's going on as we create not only just content, but just in our home and our lives. It's a part of our healing process. You know what I mean? And so
it's losing someone close is
it's
never
tough,
easy.
and
And there's no timeline on it as far as healing and all of that.
And I think
tough.
the hardest thing too is most people close all that off, right? Like someone passes and it's just like, well, let's not talk about it. So let's not think about it. And for me, I don't ever want it to be that way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a believer in like energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? So although I can't see my brother, he's not, like he's with me. Like there's things that happen all the time at the house, like lights flashing. I mean, and so I know that he's there, and it was crazy. One of the things that really got me to start creating from a creative process was it was a few days after my brother had passed away, and I was on the gram and I'm scrolling, and there was this image of this gentleman. He had his back was towards me as I'm looking at it, and he was in this waiting room. I'm like, this is crazy. And
it was crazy.
I show my wife, I'm like, this
it
looks
looks
just
like him,
like my brother. Like, this is insane. And the message on the bottom of it was, keep going. And I was just like, yo, like that's some shit my
But
brother would tell me.
I mean, he comes through, and he comes through with those messages, and it's him. Like we see rainbows, we know it's him. I see birds flying. There's certain things that I know is him. And
so shout out to the king, man. May you rest easy. You know what I mean? Like, but he's definitely one of the biggest reasons for my creative process. And so as I now raise my two daughters, probably the over nurturing comes from the fact that like I don't ever want them to experience the pain that I experienced.
I know.
And the loss that I experienced, you know what I mean? And that's hard. That's really, really hard.
Well, you want to protect them from that, but it's the shitty part about this world is that you can't.
Yeah.
And so it's just trying to build the personality traits to be able to cope when things are hard.
Yeah. And then having a platform where you can be open once again and vulnerable. And for me, if one person watches our podcast and watches the show and be like, yo, they were talking about real shit. Like, it wasn't just fluff. Like, they were talking about raw emotions. And like we had mentioned earlier, like our friend Jesse reaching out to us and being like, man, I felt what you guys were saying. I don't care if no one ever subscribes to my channel. By the way, hit that subscribe button.
Stupid.
Yeah. But for me, it's like if someone can state like, man, that was impactful and I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it's about. You know, I had this patient believer in God before we head out of here. I want to share this story with you guys. He was just like, yo, man, like oftentimes it's not people hating you. It's people hating, what they see God putting and going through you. They, like it's not about you essentially, man. Like you have to understand, like, take yourself out of it. There's something so much deeper going on. And so oftentimes we play that victim of like, oh, they don't like me, or like, no, man, like if I'm a person who's walking in my faith and being Christ-like, right? Like the people are seeing that, and some people are going to respond in a positive way. Some people are going to respond in a negative way, but either way, I have to take myself out of that because it's not about me, right? It's about the service being provided. And someone needed to hear my message or my testimony in that moment. And as long as I'm spreading love and doing the works of my Lord and Savior, then that's all that's all that I can do, right? Yep. And so for any of you guys out there, man, like who just may feel like, days are hard, they're tough, they're challenging, you feel like giving up, like just keep walking your journey. Just know there's people who are praying for you. There's people that are supporting you. You can go out there and be anything that you want to be. And I mean, shit, I never thought I'd be a doctor by any means. Like
Me either.
I had no idea. And so I feel fortunate that God has blessed me with such an amazing partner so that I can walk this journey. And Dan, you got hard hands, girl.
You got calluses.
I know.
What are you doing?
I've been carrying bricks. But we love the fact that you guys have been joining on with us, and just we hope that we can continue to grow and continue to just spread the love and energy of this journey as we go forward. Be looking out for special interviews coming up within, the next few weeks or whenever we decide to have our friends hop on here and get down and start talking to us. But we just want to continue to just share, man, and learn from each other. So I'm Dr. Jeremy Cross.
And I'm Dr. Allie Cross.
And this is Footprints to Blueprints.
Have a good day, you guys.
Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make it home.